Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Football Exponential Podcast. I'm Chika, and like every time, I'm joined by Frank.
Hi guys, how we doing? Welcome back. Chika, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, and it's a busy
Uh,
period. This is my period. I love the transfer window. You like the
um,
regular season? I like more the
no, yeah,
transfer.
no, yeah, transfer is
The news.
uh,
You take someone, you have to imagine: will it work? Will it not work? Make predictions and all those. Becomes a little more boring when the season starts because how this is when you know the work of a GM in American sports. I think he's called director of football but
yeah,
not everybody has it in soccer
yeah,
in football, European football. Because
yeah. I think
that's the most important and most difficult job to build a team.
yeah, directors. Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's always. I think it's I think sporting directors or technical directors or whatever role in in those capacities, they have the ability to shape clubs in whatever way, be it a successful club or a club that's not quite doing well, or a club that's like Chelsea. In Chelsea's case, has overspent. And most times you can't see that value for money on the pitch. So I think a lot of football achievements come down to recruitment. Just
But
if you get your recruitment right, it
you
sets you
know,
up.
in basketball, if you are watching us and you love what we are doing, please smash the like button, like, subscribe, and then you can drop your comments. Back to what I said. In basketball is the only sport that I know. There might be other sports that the GM can also, or the director of basketball operations can also become a coach. You look at Steve Kerr for the Golden State Warrior. He was a general manager of I think Arizona for the Arizona Suns before he became a coach. You look at Stevens, the one in Boston Celtics. Also, he was a coach before. He's now gone upstairs. So many of them can transition. Jerry Wise was the director. I think he was a coach also. Even the legendary, you like him a lot. The biggest trash talker. That guy can trash talk. From Indiana, what's his name that played for Celtics? That had the rivalry with Michael Jordan. Well, not Jordan, with Magic
Um,
Johnson. Larry Bird. Larry
Larry Bird,
Bird.
yeah,
Larry
Larry
Bird,
Bird.
yeah, yeah. I think he was a coach. I think he went upstairs also. But
Yeah,
because it's
it's
difficult,
true.
you have to imagine, build it. Sometimes it's agents. In modern time, it's agents now that do that. Rob
It's
Pelinka for the Lakers, it was an agent for Kobe Bryant.
it's also it's agent. I always think like this. It's not just one specific factor that makes a good sporting director. I think it's because there's a lot of recruitment is done or is led by it's data driven these days.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
the issue with data is you still need people in there to make the right decisions at the right time to get the right players in and the right players out of those football clubs that can have impact. That has impact. Like say Paris Saint-Germain this season, they feel a lot different than they've ever been since they got money. Where to be, they've not spent the most, but it seems they've finally understood what the club was meant to represent on the pitch with the players they signed. And if you listen to a lot of Parisians or PSG fans in the past, of course they enjoyed watching Neymar and Mbappe all play for the club and Messi. But there was always a disconnect between the fans and the football team on the pitch because they didn't quite. Because again, Paris Saint-Germain. Definitely, they're not an elite football club in terms of their history per se. They're not a Real Madrid, a Barcelona or Juventus or an AC Milan. They're almost a people's club per se. If you understand what I'm saying,
Yeah.
they don't have the heritage Real Madrid because Real Madrid they have this prestige behind them. Of course, to an extent, Paris Saint Germain they do have it, but they were always more a people's club, the local like almost like the local champion per se, because they were always on the outside looking in at Lyon, Marseille's, Nantes, and other clubs like that. But since they got their riches, they've gone about it differently, where they basically tried to get a galactical operation going on in France. And this is in particular, they've gone away from that, and that is a lot of people. You can put that down to Luis Campos, who's one of the leading or one of the best sporting directors around in Europe now, because he's overseeing three league, three win three league titles at three different clubs at Monaco a few years ago and at Lille, and now he's doing so at PSG. So this is, I think he has that pedigree that has shown he has the experience, the understanding of of how to get the right amount of talent in young players, but also that's the ability to just see the bigger picture when you sign these players. When you sign the likes of Desiree Doué, Bradley Barcola, Kvaratskhelia, and also how to get the right coach, because also the coach still has to coach, and the coaching job Enrique has done this season, I think, is one of his. I think, well, because again, this place they're a very rich club, but I think the coaching job he's done this year. I think they're one of the best coach teams around
One of the
in
great
Europe these
coaches.
days, and
Yeah.
and
It's
I,
not
and I
just
think
his
I
job.
think all the and I think all that starts from the boardroom level where they made that decision. Mbappe leaves, they decide to the spending has gone down quite considerably. The last, or the wage bill per se has gone down considerably from last 2 years. They look a lot younger now in terms of the feel of the squad. It's very young, uh, hungry players that have basically have. I think most of them have a point to prove. The likes of Dembele, Kvaratskhelia is another one that came in January that has also contributed. I think is. I don't know how far he's got the free run at him. I think he's probably one of the, if not one of the best left wingers around, and they seemingly got him on it. I think at a bargain price in January. And that's also the ability of a sporting director or technical director. But
Yeah, let me quickly point something out. I was writing something down. I listened to them talk about Munich, about the Champions League tonight, and they were saying that it's like it's unlike so many Champions League they've had in the past, unlike they've had the one they've had in Rome, they had in Paris, they had in London. That Munich is so quiet. It's not like looking like a Champions League town. In essence, they're just trying to talk about Munich as a city. I've never been to Germany. I don't know how it looks like. But then I remember something. I remember I wrote down three clubs that I felt as underachieved. If you look at the history and the economic ability of the city or the location, they are. You look at PSG. I didn't know that PSG was the only Paris club in football for a long time, like for a very very long time. Unlike so many, like London had like seven, eight. With the population they have, Birmingham alone has Aston Villa, has Birmingham City, has West Brom alone. They said they were the only club that was in Paris for a long time. You look at Hertha Berlin. I've never heard Hertha. Solomon Kalou, it took Solomon Kalou for me. These are big cities. Look at Frankfurt. So
yeah,
these three big cities, because if you go to Austria, you hear Vienna. At least so many clubs in Vienna are doing well. You go to Belgium, so many clubs in Brussels. You go to Zurich, some FC Zurich. There was a time they were on top. You understand what I'm trying to say? You go to
yeah,
Barcelona.
yeah,
But these are big cities. Turkey is the highest. You go to Istanbul, you go to Lisbon. I think the three clubs are in Lisbon. Sporting, I don't know if Porto is in Lisbon. I think Porto is also in Lisbon and Benfica.
yeah,
But you look
yeah.
at
Porto's in
PSG,
Lisbon.
Hertha Berlin, Frankfurt. Like maybe Frankfurt back in the days, but growing up in the 2000s, I've never heard about Frankfurt. Let's go to the main topic quickly. Bruno Fernandez, the Manchester United captain, is rumored to be considering a move to Saudi Arabia. I think it's Al Ahly with the salary of 100,000, a transfer of 100 million. Sorry, 100 million
Yeah,
transfer and then salary of 700,000. I don't care if it's net.
yeah,
I don't care per week. I don't care if it's net. I don't care if it's gross. 700 is a lot of money. First of all,
yeah.
do you think United should consider selling him? And do you think he should consider moving to Saudi Arabia? He's 31 already. He was the best
Yeah.
player for United. He had like 8 goals and I think 11 assists. And without him, I think United might have been relegated. So you look at what he has done. He has so many stats. Do you know that Fernandez? I think he created the second most assists in the Premier League since he came. I think he had so much. I wrote some of them down. So, do you think he should consider moving to Manchester United, given that he's Portuguese, the coach is Portuguese? He might be the kind of person that makes the coach more comfortable, relatable to him. You can never overrate that. So, what do you think about that?
Okay, let's start with the obvious one, and I think it's the economical factor behind it. If I don't think what United want to do should matters if Bruno Fernandes accepts that offer. And again, like we both know, like we're not silly. We know what that is. That is real. That is real money right there. And I won't be surprised if Bruno Fernandez accepts that deal. And if he does accept it, it then triggers, okay, what is the fair price United can get for his exchange? But also, but I think on the United part, I think this is the deal that again, okay, I think every player at United right now should have a price tag on their head right now. There's no player expendable, so there shouldn't be any player that shouldn't be off limits right now. Because when you have the season they've had, I think the only way to react is to rip everything up. Every single player at that club right now should be available or considered for sale. And that brings Bruno Fernandez as well. I guess you weigh up his what he brings to the team, his goals, the assists, and whatever. But at the same time, I look at like if it's a perfect opportunity to just blow the club up because the way they finished this season and the way they performed this year, it's I know we've talked about it a lot, and I think there's a lot has been said about, but I think if you really think about how they played this year, I don't think any other top club in world football has ever been this bad. And I'm talking about the club, even the guys like Juve when they got relegated for Calciopoli in Italy, they went down to Serie B. They went down to Serie B, they came back and they bounced back. They won the league title, I think, 4 years after that, or 3 years after that relegation. They were not this bad on the pitch.
No, no,
These
no.
guys have been these guys have been bad on the pitch for about 80% of no more about 90% of the Premier League season this year. And to even make matters worse, they go on this post preseason tour in Malaysia and they go out to
Okay.
embarrass themselves again. It compounds the embarrassment of the season. And I know people, okay, you can't say Bruno, he's the best player, he's this and that. I personally, I've never subscribed to that thinking. I don't see it that way. I don't. What good does it? What does it matter who's the best player on Ipswich Town per se? Because who's the best player at Southampton? Who's the best player at West Ham per se? These are teams that are underachieved. Then you have United who also underachieved, but he's the best player on that team. Okay, so what? But still not. It's no matter how much is put out, it's still not good enough because you can still do more. You can still score. He scored 8 goals this season. Had they scored 20 plus goals, they obviously finish high up the table. But with United, they've always gone about this. They've always protected certain players in the past where the guys like Luke Shaw, the Rashfords, those guys where, oh, we can sell this one or we can touch this one. This one is a superstar. We can sell that one, but this guy is one that's going to take us further. But I think as time has gone, it's shown that the rot at that club has gotten to a lot of those players. And I think the ones that have been there the longest, I think they feel a bit of they probably feel a bit jaded by the whole situation. And you just can't help but if you get alpha, I think you have to take it. So the club has to take it. But the parts that might worry people or the hardest part is okay, how do you then spend that money? Because again, this is a club that has notoriously spent poorly in the last 10 years. Because that's the biggest issue. Because for me personally, I'm selling every. Because I'm selling everybody, starting from Monana, Luke Shaw, those guys, they all have to go. Garnacho has to go. Bruno Fernandez, thank you for your service. Thank you for all you've done for the club. If you again, this is if Bruno wants to go to Saudi, that's fine. But if he doubles down, and say okay, I want to stay behind. Okay, that's also fine. You can build with Bruno Fernandez because I think he's still a good player. You can build with him. He has a lot of
But at 31,
he's the
he
captain
doesn't
of the
have
club.
much resale value. At 31.
Yeah, yeah, I know,
So this
but
might be
then
the
again,
best time to
I think
sell. Because if you look at Rashford,
yeah,
sometimes they've held on to players for so long. If you look at Rashford last season,
that's
if they
true.
had sold Rashford in the summer, they would have had more than 60 million. I don't even think they can get up to 60 million for Rashford. You're looking at 50, 45 when you've made it clear he's leaving.
Eh,
You look at Garnacho.
yeah.
If they sold him last season also, after he scored the goal for them winning the FA Cup, they could have got way more than 40 million. I don't think they're getting 40 million. So do you think this is the right time for United to cash in? Then if they get the $100 million, do you trust Sir Jim Ratcliffe's executives or board to reinvest that money? I've heard United fans say,
Um,
yes, we want him to go, but we don't trust these guys because he can take the money and
yeah,
then
yeah, that's the problem because No, no, because again, this is also a club that had this. I think they spent quite well in the last window. I think they spent about 160 million, and that's for guys like Ugarte, Delete, Mazraoui, and the striker Zexi. So those guys, you could I think Mazraoui was a good buy. Euro is still quite young, but guys like Delete, Euro is still out. The other guy Zexi. I don't think it's good enough for this level. So it then poses going, okay, can they spend well? And that is, I think that's a decision or that's an outcome we have to wait and see. Because with Fernandez, it's it's almost unfortunate because the one guy that you can't you personally you don't want to sell is the guy that seems that can get the most amount of money you can get for. And and I believe about that this 100 million is almost all profits per se because I think his book value at the club has already been paid off. So
Yeah.
again it's a tough one, but tactically, when you look if you look at it, because I think Amorim has moved Fernandez across the pitch since he's been there. He's played him as a striker, played him as a number 10. Then I think he's settled playing him in the midfield positions. Tactically, does that help Amorim going forward in terms of how he wants the team to play? And it's a very, I think it's a very tough one, but I think if you can just break it down to one decision, if the player wants to go, then the United have no choice. You can't
If
stand in
you're
his way.
Fernandez, will you decide? Do you think this is the right time to move on? Because if you look at him, he's the only
For
one. I think he only won
for
two
200,
trophies: the FA Cup. Was he there with Mourinho when Mourinho won the Europa League? No, I don't think
no,
so.
no,
No, he
no.
wasn't there.
So he's only won the he's won the FA Cup. Yeah,
And the League Cup.
but again, for 200 million, for over 200 million for 3 years, for a 3-year contract, I think that's enough reason to make that decision. Like, because again, he can still go to Saudi for a year or two, come back, go to one of the Syria clubs. He's going to be, I think, for Syria level, he's still he'll be a young player then. So yeah, there's a lot of there's still a lot of time for him to achieve what he wants to achieve. But then again, you know what? I'm just no, no. I'm looking at the salary right now,
Seven hundred
and
thousand. I'm
he has
taking
to
that.
go.
I'm taking that.
Yeah,
I
he has
don't
to
care.
go. Like,
At
yeah, yeah,
31, at
yeah,
31, it's
yeah.
not like
He
I'm
has to
in
go.
Real Madrid or whatever. At 31, at 31, I'm looking at declining. I'd rather go take that money for 2 years and come back to Europe. I'll go.
No, and again, because with how football moves quite quickly. I remember
It's not like
2 years
United
ago,
are going to win the trophy this
Rashford,
season or next season. So, yeah.
yeah, and like football moves quite quick. Because 2 years ago, right when Rashford had his contracts running up and he had a fantastic season, a lot of United fans wanted him to stay. He stayed. He got the money. And since then, Rashford has been one of the most hated icons at the football club, one of the most hated figures at that football club. So it's again, we don't. It's like Bruno could decide to stay. They have another bad season, and they become the face of that of a failing club. So it's a very again. I think sometimes you just not always, but I think sometimes you have to move for the money. And I think in this situation, I think the money for both parties could be the right decision. But then again, if you, with United and how they're being operated off the pitch these days. What's 100 million worth to United right now? How badly do they need 100 million? Because again, they're not in European football. They don't have European football next season.
Mm-hmm.
Amorim is going to need at least four major signings to come in and adjust and help him manifest his football at that club. Players that have underperformed, even the ones that have underperformed, the Rashford Garnacho, you can't get top money for them. You're going to have to leave some money on the table. So it's very. I think personally, just sell everyone that you can sell. Try and get the right signings, and I think we'll talk about one of the proposed
Listen,
future transfers to United.
let-
But
I'm
yeah,
going off script.
I think we can go there now. I think we can go there
I'm
now.
going. I'm no, no. Let's go to. I'm going off script now. I want to talk about somebody.
Okay.
You and I have talked about in private. Alexander Trent just occurred to me. So, do you think?
Oh, oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I just remember that. Do you think? Um, uh, Liverpool we are right to take the 10 million euros? for from Real Madrid
Well,
for him to play in the World Cup
well,
Championship. And do you think at least the fans were claiming because it didn't make sense to me the way they were booing Trent. It just didn't make sense to me. Yes, it was painful. He was leaving, but the best way to make him regret leaving is to win titles and to beat him. That's the only way. When he looks back, he says yes. The same was done to Ashley Cole,
or
but he ended
yeah,
up winning
but okay, no,
because
okay,
booing him and making him because people fans are saying why does he want to leave? This is the best, but it's subjective. What you want might be different from what somebody else wants. Some people don't love to living in New York, right? Some people don't love big cities. They move over to the country. They move over to North Carolina. They move over to. You understand what I'm trying to say? They move over to Nashville. Some people want to live in big cities. So if he has been there at the club for 6 years, however, for since he was 6 years old or 7 years old, and he's giving his all, he has. It's painful. I wasn't happy when Eddie Hazard left Chelsea. It was very very painful. But that doesn't stop anything he has done for the club. The best way is to beat him. And these people criticize it. They have jobs. They shift jobs. Those guys will leave jobs in Liverpool and move over to London or move. So why this when they start looking these players, this is also their job. So I didn't understand it. So
yeah.
do you think that he deserves the criticism he's getting? And also, do you think that Liverpool were right to take the 10 million from Real Madrid?
Okay, yeah. Well, I think of course, if you then if you have discussions with Real Madrid about when you release a player, I think it only makes sense. It's only right to take that offer if it's on the table because right now, because again, how much is Trent worth to Liverpool? Sorry, how much is Trent worth to Real Madrid going forward in the
And they should have sold him a long
FIFA
time
Club World Cup?
ago.
I
If
think
he told you he wasn't extending, no matter how good a player is, even if you're Messi, except you've given your all, you've stayed for long, like Aspiqueta, or you understand what I'm trying to say? Those players,
yeah,
Evans, what is it called? The Man U Evans,
yeah.
except those players, if you are the club and you don't extend and your contract has 2 years to run, I'm telling you, I'm getting as much money as I can. Like Guehi, it's like
And
tomorrow
it's
fans
also
start saying Guehi left without making club. He has told you it's not extended. It's left to you to decide. Do you and if you don't want to be sold, I'm going to put you on the bench. But it's 1 year. Let me see those clubs I will buy you. Because 1 year is an eternity in football to be on the bench and not play active football. So to me, it's not
and it's
Trent's
also the
problem, it's Liverpool. Yeah.
and I think we also in Trent's mind, you see the ambition of the football club at the time where they signed the contract. Okay, you know, for the last 10 years or so, it's been Liverpool and Man City going at the Premier League title, and also I think he's played two Champions League finals against Real Madrid and lost both of those finals. That leaves an impact. That leaves something on you where you feel you're going to feel somehow when you're losing to this monster of a team. And when domestically you see you're not quite sure where Liverpool are going, how they want to, how far they want to push to challenge for titles in the Premier League. If you have all those questions and at the same time you've won all what you've won at Liverpool, it's only natural to have that question. Okay, can I go somewhere else and have a better experience? Can I go somewhere else and win more? Go somewhere else and challenge myself? And when you see one of your best mates, or we believe Jude Bellingham is one of his best friends in football, as he goes to Madrid and you see how not just how successful he's been there, but also how well received he's been at Real Madrid. How he's the darling of the football club. They've he's I think his on and off the pitch status has been elevated since he's been there. Because I think Trent is one of those guys that they asked him when I think a few years ago we asked him what is your dream going forward. He didn't quite say, "Oh, I want to win with Liverpool. I want to get this." He says, "I want to win the Ballon d'Or." That is how he sees himself as a Ballon d'Or level player, and that I think all this just adds up, and you make that decision. Okay, there's never a right time to leave your boyhood club, especially when you've been been there for a long time, 6 years old. And for the fans, when you see that guy who's been here all his life, make that decision, not basically rejects you and go somewhere else, of course it's going to be painful, it's going to hurt, but it's how you then challenge it, and it's how you then channel it. Because most people, because okay, it's painful, it's going, but you can also accept he's been a fantastic player for the club, and you're going to miss him, and it's fine, it's disappointing, but then again, rather than analyze it all that way, it turns to one part. Okay, we hate this guy. Oh, he's a sellout. He's left the club. He's betrayed us. All that. Well, it's again, it's I think it's football.
But
We,
this, but the
I know
club can
we
sell
love it.
whoever
We
they want
talk.
to sell at any time, and the person is not. The
Yeah,
clubs
exactly.
decide to
No,
sell. They
exactly,
tell you they will never sell you.
exactly.
They promise you everything, but they sell the players. Immediately, the players don't become important to them. They
We
sell.
see.
They did that with
No,
Scott Parker, Mr. West
it's
Ham, Mr. West Ham. They
no,
dumped him. The
yeah,
clubs dump players, but the
no,
players cannot
it's.
dump the clubs. Why?
Yeah, we see like even with the Liverpool great Steven Gerrard, I think one of the reasons that made him that forced his Liverpool exit was because he wasn't willing to get they were not willing to give him a new contract when he was about when he was talking about when he was getting quite older, so he didn't get the contract he wanted, so he decided to just leave the football club and went to MLS. So it's again football clubs can be ruthless when they make decisions regarding players, but when it's the other way
Jesse
around,
Dudek
it's
was dumped.
always
Jesse Dudek was dumped after winning
so
Champions League final. You forgot to, because
exactly.
he still
So
had
it
like 3 years to go. He went to Real Madrid and he ended. I don't know if he ended
You
his
know,
career.
no, exactly. Like, and again, I always think back to one of the most fascinating transfer sagas was when Rafa Benitez was still at Liverpool, and he tried to shift Xavi Alonso out of the football club.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
tried every way, but they offered him to Arsenal. He offered him to Juventus. He couldn't. They couldn't shift him off, and he ended up staying. But he ended up staying for a year. Then the next year, he left to Real Madrid and became successful there. But you see. Because again, I think at the heart of it, I know we love it, a lot of emotion goes into it, but again, it's business. And my question for Liverpool, not just this, I think fans react in a different way than the guys that are more business minded. And fans are always going to be emotional. They're always going to lead with more than their heart than their heart than their brains when it comes to logically talking about these matters. But when you look at the football club and you ask, did Liverpool Football Club do enough to convince or keep Trent at the club longer than he has been? I think the answer is I don't
No,
think they
no,
have
no,
done
no.
that.
They didn't. They didn't.
It's
Because
because
they went
because
stagnant for
it's
a
just
long time. After they won that with Mane the first season, they did not.
yeah.
That was when they lost the plot. They were supposed. It was towards the last time, the last season of Jurgen Klopp's period that they spent heavy again. They didn't. They left that squad stagnant.
I mean, and even if you see how, like, say, look at, for example, this season, Salah and Virgil van Dijk. We say let's play a different hypothetical. Sorry, say Salah doesn't have the brilliant season he's had this year. Say he has an average season. Do you think Liverpool give him this new
They will
contract?
not.
Do
They
you
will
think
not.
they extend this new contract? Do you think they give him this all the money
They
he wants?
waited
I don't
because they
think
were
so,
not
because
sure. That's the more reason why they waited. They were not sure.
that's how that's how the game is played. And I think as a football player, when you're in that situation where you're not quite sure, or you have doubts about where the club is going, if your ambitions can be met at this club, you then start flirting with ideas of leaving. And when you have Real Madrid there, where I personally think it's right now, I don't think Real Madrid can get just about any player they want to get. If they really like, even I know because we have this Barcelona, one of our friend always comes to the show. Kingsley, the Barca. I always tell him,
Yeah.
see, if Real Madrid wants to get Yamal, they can't get it. All they need to do is they set up a dinner with Hustle at 304 and it's done.
That's his father's social media
So
account on Instagram, right?
that's the fact. It's if Real Madrid want to shake the football world and have another Figo situation, they set up that dinner in a fancy restaurant, somewhere in a fancy restaurant in Spain, and they set that move in motion. So also, so as much as I would love to see that, but I don't think it will quite happen. But look, this club can go they can go anywhere and seduce the best players. And when I think historically, there's only a handful of players that have been able to turn down their law of Real Madrid, and it's you speak like you hear those guys, you hear the likes of Totti talk about it. Steven Gerrard, like, yeah, I turned them down, but there's almost a bit of not regret, but a bit of wonder what could have been if I had played for Real Madrid because that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
I know Barcelona fans react, but I think Real Madrid are that's the top level of European football where
Okay, let's
that all white means a lot.
let's go quickly to the next one. Cunha, he moved from Wolves to United. I think 63 million. I think is euros. His release clause, and then I think he's official now. Do you think that is a replacement for Fernandez? His ideal replacement for Fernandez. Do you think he's what the club or who the sort of player Amorim desires, or do you think he's going to be a teammate of Fernandez? What do you say about the signing? Do you think he's the sort of signing that will take them higher?
Cunha is a very good player. I think this is a player that when we're discussing our team of the season, I fought very hard to have in that team because I felt he
Yeah,
had a
yeah, I agree
fantastic
with
season.
you.
But have but having said that, I don't think this is a good deal for United because just historically or in recent history, this is the kind of deal that's put United in big trouble. Where they go out there, they sign this fantastic player, be it the Di Marias, the Paul Pogba's,
Pogba,
for
yeah,
whatever reason. But these players, make it tired. These players are good players. You sign them for big money, you give them big wages, they come into that football club, and for whatever reason, they just they have a space jam effect on players where those players just lose their ability to play football, and they lose what made them so special that United decided to shell out large amount of money for them. And I think Cunha is another, or he could be another one of those players where because I have it's because again I don't think it's the player per se, but I think it's the player and the environment he's stepping into. Because there's been a culture at that club for a long time where even Messi Mount, for example, where this is a guy they signed for over £60 million. They give him about I think over £300,000 per week, and he's been injured for the last 2 years. This is the Messi Mount that was basically on every Chelsea starting lineup for 2 years straight for club and country at different international tournaments, but he signs for United and he can't get on the pitch. This is it's just something at that club that doesn't make sense or doesn't allow good players to really show that level. Because again, if you just want to be honest about it, we'll go through the list of the last 20 big transfers they signed at that football club, and how many of them have actually been pound for pound worth it. I think you come up with Bruno Fernandez. Luke Shaw has been at that club for almost 10 years now.
yeah.
This so because again, this is not knock on the player. I think Fernando Cunha is a fantastic player. He fits what Patrick what Amorim needs for his two number tens. But at the same time, if I'm a United fan and I've seen what has happened at this club in the last few years, I'm really worried about this thing. In fact, I'm worried about any player that wants. I'm worried about any player that wants to come to United right now for big money.
But
I'm really worried about it because are you because
yeah,
is that player coming for the right reason? Because you know you go to United, you get a fantastic wage. You're there, boom, sorted. You basically don't have to work for it in cases of Mr. Mount, Luke Shaw, and co. Rashford has been there. He's someone. I think he's lost his way in
and
in
United
terms of
is a
what he wants from
massive,
football.
massive, 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 massive club. It's really, really massive.
The-
If not because they've not won titles or they've not won so many trophies lately, I think they are there at the same place with Real Madrid and Barcelona, because this is a
yeah,
team that has
commercially,
not won anything in a long time. They've not won the league title
but
since was it 2013 or 15? When was the last time Sir Alex Ferguson left? When was the time he left? He left like 20. I think it was
I think
13
it's
or
20.
14. It might be
Yeah, I'm not
15.
sure. I'm not sure.
I think I've forgotten. But since he left,
Let me just okay. Just keep talking.
no,
Let me
he's
just
not
check it.
15. He left in 14 because after he left, Leicester won the league title the next season when he left. Because I could remember Leicester won it in
Mm.
20
Yeah,
20.
13.
Leicester won it 2015. So the last time he won it
Yeah,
should have
20.
been, I think, 14. Oh no, Chelsea were defending
Yeah.
champions when Leicester won it. So he left before Chelsea won it. So Chelsea won in 14, Leicester won in
He left.
15. So he left in 2013. So since 2013,
Yeah.
they've not won the Premier League title. Yet they are still look at their
No.
if you look at the revenue they make from their commercial whatever partners, you realize how big the club is. It is massive. It is massive. And for them not to be successful lately, I don't even I even doubt if Amorim is really the right man for the job. I really doubt it. Because what if this
Okay. Okay.
philosophy doesn't work out? They are doomed.
Let's talk about.
Because yesterday I was
Let's talk
asking
about.
myself, you know Mazzari? Look at Mazzari, right? To me, they bought him, he was too cheap. They bought him like I think 30 something million, and to me he's a
Mazraoui.
very good player. Yeah, Mazzari.
No, yeah, it was no cheaper than that. The body cheap. The body was cheap. It was dead cheap. We know for political reasons, but we know why it was all cheap. Why it was very cheap. But it was quite cheap.
Oh, was that why he was that cheap? Oh, they were ready to let him go. Just let him. I know. Was that
Yeah,
the
yeah.
reason why?
Like
Oh, I did
so
because I looked at
yeah,
when they signed the league for 50. I saw Mazahari, I think for like 27. I'm
yeah.
like, how? And I think he just made it
No,
clear I want to go
they
to
just
Manchester United, and then because so many clubs would have had him.
yeah,
Oh, then let's go. But if you
yeah.
look at him, I will know. I will drive the bus and get him for Chelsea. Right? I love him so much. But look at him right now in
There's
a
a
Amorim system.
is a technical player.
But if you look at Amorim system, like he don't have a place in the team because he's not a wing back.
Yeah, and
But you understand
it's
how
not a wing
you
back.
understand
It's
that's
not
how that's when I realized that
I know,
the
yeah,
system
understand,
Amorim wants to
understand.
play, you end up kicking so many boys out of the team. What if he's not successful? Because if you look at it theoretically, if
But
you look at it, Diego Dalot or Mazuari should be able to play as a wing back, but they have not been successful.
uh, yeah,
Now, Ahmad, I don't even
um,
think United fans trust Ahmad because if they trust Ahmad, if you accept
no,
Ahmad is going to play the wing back position, why are you going for you understand what I'm trying to say? And
yeah, I understand,
Apart from Dogu, that's number one, is going to play on the wings. Cunha is going to play as the second person, and then
second
maybe
string.
Maguire in central midfield or central defense, sorry, for three-man defense. Maguire is solid. Then maybe Luke Shaw on the left back if he's not injured. If he's injured, he's very, very good. These are the only four people that I think that suits that system. Because the leads, I don't think so.
No, okay,
Meno, he can't even use
okay.
Meno.
So then
He can't use
I don't think he
Ogate.
fancies Meno quite.
But you understand what I mean? He can't use Meno.
No, he
He can't use
loves.
Ogate. He can't use Casemiro. He can't use Eriksen. These are all players. You're talking about four. He can't use Garnacho. What is left?
Yeah, again, like I said, I think they have to blow the club up. In terms of playing personnel, yeah. But again, that poses the question: is Amorim the right guy to take United forward going into next season?
Because what he wants to do is to reap. And also, if you look at it, also mistake United, not really mistake, but this makes me realize how lucky Chelsea were or is. Because if you notice, these new owners also ripped everything off and started again. Look at the whole team
But
that won.
I know, but I think Chika, I think there's one big difference there, and I think the big difference is these new owners were willing to rip it off, and they were willing to invest. They were
Yes.
willing to put money into the club, and
Yeah.
that's why I think I'm not quite sure to what degree United financially can put money into the club, or if what their financial parameters are, because they still owe about 250 million to different clubs for past transfers. So they still have that weight, they still have that carrying around their head, and they have no European football this season as well. So there's a it's a bit difficult, but I think ultimately you have to look at it this way. Fundamentally, you got a coach who got I think got hired in November.
Yeah.
I think yeah but he got hired quite early on, and they come out. I know obviously it didn't start the season, but United finished the Premier League season with 11 wins. The goal
Yeah.
now is how do you change 11 wins to 20 plus wins in the Premier League? How do you go from 42 points to 60 points, 70 points in that table. Because before Amorim came, United were behind Man City, Liverpool's, Arsenal.
Yeah.
You could say Chelsea maybe, and clubs like even Aston Villa and Newcastle, those kind of clubs, they were behind those clubs in the Premier League. I think now the gap between them and a club like a Brentford, Fulham, Bournemouth, I think that gap has widened in the last 6 months on the
Yeah, he's
on,
right.
on the pitch. So then, okay, what's the goal for next season? Because there's no Europe now. You have more time on the training pitch. You have more time to coach the players, get your ideas across, help new players bed in. But how do United go from finishing 15th with a -10 goal difference? Because again, United have finished the last two Premier League seasons with -10, with minus goal difference. And in fact, in the last 4 years, United have not scored more than 60 Premier League goals
Yeah, you're right.
in the last 4 seasons. So
Mm,
how, so how, so how, so
with the exception of
so
Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, all the top six or top seven, wherever you want to call the whole guys from one Newcastle, Aston Villa, with every like the seven of them, right? With the exception of the seven of
yeah,
them, you also have three clubs that to me are very stable. They don't have high ceiling, but you know where they are. Fulham, Bournemouth, Brentford. They are stable, right? For the next two,
uh,
3 years. Like you look at Muniz, Muniz can
yeah,
easily step into Raul Jimenez shoes. You look at Iwobi, you look at Leno. You understand what I'm trying to
they can
say? The
sell,
same thing with the
and,
same thing with Bournemouth. They are stable.
and they have,
The same thing with Brentford.
yeah.
They are not like Wolves. They are not like Everton. That I'm thinking, how will it be? These ones are stable. Then you look at the one that has a very high ceiling, but we don't know what they are going to do. Brighton. So you're looking at seven teams, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 going into next
Eg-
season are already on paper. I'm not even talking in the team ahead of Manchester United. That's a
So
massive thing.
yeah, and it's 'cause like just so let's take Crystal Palace for example. Like you see
I
how
think
this is, and with
for
Crystal Palace,
Palace.
like yeah, no, no, Crystal Palace, they have a coach that plays basically the same formation. The three at the back, wing backs, the two number tens, one striker. That I think is on paper is the same thing. But you see how that team performs on the pitch and how United are. And I know. Obviously, there's difference in the amount of time the coaches has been there, but I don't think there's been. Because if you ask the question, what is Amorim ball? What is it? What are they trying to do on the pitch? I don't think in the last 5 months, you can't tell me in the Premier League, you can't tell me any clear idea what they're trying to do. Of course, you can say at the same time, I think a lot of the players are not quite good at that team. They're not United level. They're not the top Premier League team level. That is true. But
Yeah.
there's also a world where you coach players and you can get the best out of a collective to a certain level. Like there's a way there's that point there are points where you see how well the manager is doing, how well he's platformed this team. And the question,
Yeah.
okay, if we get more quality to this, it's called more quality to this team, we can get better. Like Eddie Howe at Newcastle, he goes there, saves they stay away from relegation. Okay, if they can get more quality into this team, they can push up the table. Then they get Isaac comes in, Bruno Guimaraes. I think Bruno Guimaraes comes in as well. Guys like Anthony Gordon, Sven Botman all come in, and now this is the team that's finished in Champions League positions twice in the last 3 years. That is coaching, and that is also recruitment of players. And I feel with Amorim, I feel like the questions around his management style, the coaching of this team is still there. And is wanting to be wedded to a particular system. Because I was watching, or I think I was watching, not watching per se, but I saw a bit of that post-season game
Mhm.
against Malaysia All Stars, and I was confused. I didn't understand how. I don't understand why he still played a three at the back formation in those games
Yeah.
because it didn't make sense. Because I know it's a one-off game. It's one of those games like you basically just put out any lineup. You should just go there. It's an
Yeah.
exhibition game. Put out a lineup. You go there, score goals, entertain the viewing fans, and keep pushing. But it still sticks to it, and the football is bad. It's so I think they have so many questions out there, so many questions to be answered. And with him, if you sack him, who do you get to replace him, and how do you go from there? And I think to double back on our first conversation, sporting directors, and I think for a lot of United fans, the biggest red flag in this whole situation should have been when the club fired Dan Ashworth, because it's quite I think it's well documented that after Ten Hag got sacked, Dan Ashworth was one of the few guys that was in there that was against the appointment of Amorim,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
at
yeah,
least at that time per se. And when that guy gets when that voice gets pushed out, you go out there, you push through for that deal, despite the hesitations from your sporting director at the time. You get Amorim, and we can see how it's all transpired. It's now then guys out there, the CEOs, the technical directors, they're all looking funny in the light now, where it looks like that guy was probably right about this coach.
yeah.
Not
And
about his abilities per se, but it's just about the whole situation. That was not the right call to do then.
that was
And
one of them.
again, do you? Well, in terms of United, I feel if you want to break it down, what they should do going forward, first they need to get a sporting director in. I know Omar Barada is there; he has a lot of experience for Man City, but I think he's more of a financial guy than a sporting than the football guy that can find the players, get the right players. You know, that's what I'm saying. I think they need to get a good sporting director in, find one. If you want to bring Ashford back, I don't know if it's possible. But get one in, say you get, I don't know, get anybody in. And you listen to that guy, say, okay, if this is the road we're going to go down, if it's Amorim, we're going to go down this road, but we'll make sure we sign the players for the football club. So you protect yourself going forward. So in a situation where Amorim in 6 months is not good enough, you can then get rid of Amorim. At least there's continuity at the football club where you just don't sign players that are wedded to his system and they can't play anything else. You
But do
can't
you know, I
if you
was
see
thinking
because
about it. Do you know it would have been better for them at the end of that season that Ten Hag won the FA Cup? Maybe it would have been better for them to even employ or get Michael Carrick to just stabilize the club and push out so many people. That's what I'm saying. You could get. I
yeah,
don't
it's
right because
well, see, no, I know. Okay, but check out. But this is it. We're both Chelsea fans. We've seen the backlash Maresca has gotten, or the criticism Maresca has gotten this season, just because he came from a championship team. And people were saying, if you hire a championship manager, you get championship results. That was the whole gist of what people were saying. So but again, it takes. You can say what you want about the guys at Chelsea and how they move and how they do business, but also I think it takes a great deal of courage to think outside the box and push for a manager like Maresca, where you have that interview, you talk with him, you see his idea of football, but not just how he communicates his ideas of football, but how he leads this team. I think you can see Maresca is the coach of that team. He's in control when he talks to the press, when he communicates to the media, how he's been in charge of that football club this year. I think he's on just even off the pitch, he's been fantastic. I think he's been. I'll give him probably a 9 out of 10 of how he's managed issues off the pitch this year, how he's moved in press conferences. And because again, with Amorim, whenever he talks in the press conferences, I'm like, should you be
like he
saying,
enjoys
especially like
he
Garnacho, for
enjoys
example,
listening to himself.
like okay, exactly, and like should you be like understand what you're trying to say, but like even when he spoke about when like Garnacho, Garnacho, like okay, I understand he's not starting, but when he started the semi-final, he missed a chance, so I don't want to hear him complain. So those little is a very I think there's another way where a different coach will talk about handle those matters differently. Even the Rashford situation, and it's just because if we really think about it now, the squad building going to next year. They're probably going to sell all the wingers they have at that club except Amad Traore. So you're going to Garnacho looks like he's gonna go. Rashford is on his way out. Sancho, I don't think they'll take him back. So if you sell those guys, you only have Ahmad as the quote unquote traditional winger
Mm.
at the club. But what if you move away from Amorim and you get another guy? You then have to then go on the market to
Yeah,
get
yeah, yeah, yeah. Get someone
wingers
like
to
that.
go and play another system. So they're very unless you say okay, if you can get someone who say okay, this is going to be our identity going forward. We're going to be a three at the back, like Inter Milan the last 5 years. After Conte left, they got another guy who played the
Yeah.
same formation, but he played it in a different way. is that a situation where you stick with Ahmad, stick with Amorim this year? If things don't improve, going to next season, you start looking around. Is it an a Glasner, for example, Inzaghi, those guys that play the same system, can they come in and get the better of this team? But I think right now, I think Amorim is in. He has
But
a big job on his hands because
you know that
'cause just
system is very difficult to play in
imagine
the
this.
Premier League.
No, but it's not. But it's not though. Like again, because a lot of people talk about systems. I don't. I think ultimately systems is it's how you play football. It's how you see football. It's your principles. Are you a possession based team? You can be a possession based team in a three at the back, four in midfield. You can be an overly attacking team with a three at the back formation. You can be a very poor team with a 4-3-3 or 4-4-2. Is I don't like formations are very. We talk about them a lot, but I think at the end of the day, it's just I think it's more about principles of what that coach is trying to do. And also, if you add that with quality, because you see, like again, see Conte. There was a time where Conte came to the Premier League, and we saw more teams playing that
Yeah,
formation
yeah,
at that
yeah.
time because there were benefits to that formation where you can you pack the midfield at the same time. But also I agree with you in terms of this nowadays. In I think nowadays where a lot of teams are finding ways to get an extra body into midfield, be it a false nine or be it a false
Uh-huh.
striker or an inverted fullback into midfield. And I think with Amorim particularly, his biggest weakness is he doesn't his possession principles are are not good enough for this level. Like if you watch United, they don't know how to keep the ball, or they're not being coached well enough in terms of how they
And they
keep the
lose it.
ball. So it's a very because if you see the because I don't understand how Meno is not getting to that team, and I feel long term in terms of what the players they have right now, I think it will suit United to go because with Inzaghi and Amorim, Inzaghi has three central midfielders, two strikers. Amorim has two and three attacking players. I've always felt long term or even in short term, I think he needs to adopt more of what Inzaghi has done with Inter Milan. Because if you can get three midfielders in, you already have more bodies in midfield. You have the wing backs that bring width to the team, and you can play with two strikers. One comes in, one goes long. You can go about it different ways. But when you have, it's I don't I love to see it happening, but again, I feel I don't know how they have so much to do and there's very little time because this I think the Premier League season is back in I think it's back in 2 months.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So there's so you basically have to get
If I'm
90% of
if
your
I'm
decision
them,
making right in
if I'm them, one player I'm not even thinking of losing. I'm not losing him. I'm not losing Meno because I was thinking,
but
yes, he might
no
not really
I
be
know I
there.
know
You have like the likes of McAllister, Gavi, Andres Santos. These are players that can do a job deep. That is very deep. That's the problem I have with Mason Mount, and that's why I didn't rate him because to me, if you are not able to play on the wings and you want to play in the center, you have to be very, very creative as a number 10, like Cunha, like Palmer is, or Pedri, because you can move Pedri also
yeah
forward. You have to be very, very creative. Musiala,
Rogers
yeah,
those kind of guys.
Rogers, yeah, those or Gibbs White, or physically, or if you can't do that, you have to be able to play deep. And that is where, although I've been a little bit disappointed to some extent with the Chelsea guy that Chelsea sold to Brighton and didn't make it. He's in Napoli right now. What was his name? Uh,
Billy
Billy
Billy Gilmore.
Gilmore, yeah.
Billy Gilmore.
So if you're not able to
Yeah.
play that, then you have to play deep. Gilmore doesn't have a problem receiving that. I think he's in small stature. That is one of his problems, and maybe
But
injury. But Palmer is not
but
comfortable
again,
receiving the ball from deep. So that makes it very
no,
hard.
yeah. And so like a guy like Kobe Mino now, I think it's getting to that point. It's getting to the situation where it seems the club are happy to sell just for
Yeah.
financial purposes only. It's not a reflection of the player's talent or how he fits the team, but it's just pure profit right now. Kobe Mino and Alejandro Garnacho. I feel if a club like United, I think Kobe Mino is. I really
Because
believe in
if
his
you change
talent.
the
I feel
manager,
he,
Kubimeno
but
is the kind of player that is going to be number one in the next manager's list. Like, you understand what I'm trying to say?
no, yeah, he has. It's like but again, but at the same time, I also feel Kobe Mino has the same issues Enzo Fernandez has had at Chelsea. Where if you look at him, how best do you platform this guy on the pitch? Do you play him as the number six? Do you play him as a number 10? I think ultimately the answer is he's a number eight, a player that can do both sides of the pitch. He can defend, he can score goals, he can control tempo at the same time. But he needs to be in the right system and plus with the right players at the same time. Like you see Enzo playing better now because Caicedo does a lot of the defensive work or Lavia does a lot of the defensive work, but Enzo gets further up the pitch. He scored more goals than he has scored more goals this season than he ever has. So it's a very tricky one. But I think with Amorim, I don't know if it's a decision that the club has made, thereby Amorim doesn't play him as much anymore because I found it very strange when we were losing the Europa League final. Corbeno came on. I think he came on in the 88th minute, and
Hmm.
I found that really really strange. That because if you're losing a game or if you're losing that kind of game where Tottenham surrender the position to you, all they cared about
Yeah,
was defending. At that moment in time, you don't need three centre backs on the pitch. You take away one of them, you bring on a guy like Corbeno in the middle of the pitch. You give him the ball because those guys that they find you solutions on the pitch
yeah,
where
yeah, yeah.
if you don't have the right tactical setup, you'll find yourself some coach that are just so good on the ball. Where even we saw with Ten Hag all of last season when whenever Kobino played, he got the ball in tight positions. He just made it happen because he's that good. So when you have that kind of player, that game breaker like that, I think that he's a very good player. And when you can't really get him to your team or it doesn't fit your system, I think I think it's a disappointment. But I think ultimately, whenever clubs go through this period where this hire and sack managers,
Yeah.
there's always going to be casualties. There's always going to be one or two that for whatever reason they just don't fit in or they can't play their best football with another manager. So it's a very interesting situation. Like again, Kobe Mino is a guy at Chelsea. I love Kobe Mino at Chelsea. I would absolutely love that guy at
Let's
Chelsea.
go to the next
So I don't
one.
know if
The next and final one. Jeremy's Frimpong. We'll discuss. We talk about the lap. Next one. So with Jeremy Frimpong moving to Liverpool, I think for 34 or 33 million. I think it's euros. Man, that's a big steal for
yeah,
him. That's a massive steal because for a player, he's still 21, but you look at what he has achieved, though. He looks like he started football when he was so early. Maybe he was 12 years old. He's 21. He has won two league titles. Yes, one was a little bit easier because he played for Celtic. The other one was for Bayer Leverkusen. And for the first time, people in Germany over there, Germany, they call them Neverkusen because they never win a title. I remember as a little boy back in 2002, they had a coach called Todd Muller. I forgot. His son is doing well right now. His son is a coach right now. Todd Muller. I forgot what club is it. I think is it is his son? Is it Stuttgart? I don't. One of them. One of his
is that he's at Frankfurt right now. He used to
I think,
be
yeah.
he used to be he used to be Nagelsmann's assistant, but he's head coach at
Who is Zeno?
Frankfurt.
Is it Zeno? Is his name Zeno Tomula? Is it the same guy?
Uh,
Because there's a German
is
popular coach called
Tino.
Zeno. He was named after Zeno, the Italian goalkeeper. This Zeno Dove. I'm mixing two of them up. I
Okay,
forgot. There's one. There's a very good goalkeeper in Germany called Zeno. Because I was surprised. How do you name yourself Zeno when you are German? I found out the dad named him after Zeno Dove, the legend, the Italian goalkeeping legend. Let's go back to the top Muller. Back in 2002, he lost three finals in the same season. He lost the league title. He lost the Champions League final with Zidane, Real Madrid beating them 2-0, and then
yeah,
the
yeah,
second final.
yeah, yeah.
Who? Uh,
Just for our listeners, Klaus Topmüller. That was his name. That was the coach
It's
of
the
Bayer
son or the
Leverkusen then.
father. Who's Klaus?
Yeah, so Klaus is the father that coached Bayer Leverkusen in
Yeah,
2001
he
to
had Lucio, he had
2003.
Zilberto, he had Michael Bala. I remember that squad.
Yeah.
I think Babatov was still a very young player
Mm.
in that team. He was still
Bebeto,
maybe
Barak.
yeah,
Yeah.
Zilberto, Lucio. I remember Lucio very, very well. So back to I remember they had a German, I think defender also called Jeremies back then. I think he played for Bayern Munich or Bayern Leverkusen, one of them, Jeremies. So back to what we are talking about. You look
Yeah.
at him at 20, I think he's 24 already. He looks like he's 30 years old, Frimpong, with his pace, with
That's,
his speed.
that's right.
And I don't think he has finished learning. I think he'll continue to learn, but it will be that means next season Salah is about to score a lot of it's about to record lots of assists because in my head I'm tantalizing. I'm thinking him and Salah in the same week is going to give defenders a big problem.
It's
But the only problem I
it's
have is that he'll be
okay.
found
I
out in
think
the
it's
Premier League as regards he won't be leaving spaces for some few maybe 6 months
well,
or something. He'll be caught out of position.
well, it's well, I think it's a very interesting deal because it's. I think first of all, it's a very. I think the price is just
I don't know how
for a
they got
player
that.
of his quality.
Maybe it was a release clause.
It's a really close situation. But but with him and with Liverpool's rumor transfer business because they've been linked with the guy from Bournemouth as well, Kekes. I don't know if I don't know if they want to go back to the period where they had fast wingers, Robertson, Trent that just attacked from there and they just defend with probably could they defend with three centre backs or could they defend with two? Van Dijk is a lot older. Van Dijk is older now. Konate, I don't think Konate can last the whole season playing transition football, covering large spaces for Frimpong. But I think it's if you lose a guy like Trent, it's always I think it's impossible to replace a player like Trent.
It's going
Trent
to
is a
be very.
unicorn of a football player. But like it's like they say in Moneyball, you can replace the player with the aggregates where you bring Frimpong, a player that has fantastic characteristics of a traditional attacking fullback. You bring him in, and you bring in a player like Florian Wirtz that has fantastic playmaking abilities into that team. So you don't have to rely heavy on McAllister or Gravenberch's passing qualities. Because I don't think I think one of them is fantastic. I think one is okay. I think Gravenberch is okay with his passing. But with Trent's absence, you're missing one of the best progressive passers in European football. So how do you then fix that problem? And I expect them to sign another centre back to cover to help in that situation. But I think Frimpong I think is a fantastic deal because this is the guy that scores because like you said all of assists but he also scores goals.
Yeah, like 20
Like he's
something
scored in
goals
the
down.
last 2 years. I think in the last 2 years he's scored at the frequency of top wide forwards in Europe in the last 2 years because he played basically as a winger for Bayer Leverkusen. But because defensively, I'm not. I don't think he's. Because with the way Leverkusen have played, he's not been on the last line of the defense. He's not played like a traditional right back. He's played as an auxiliary winger. So but it's
Yeah.
interesting. But just looking at it, but I think there's one growing trend in especially in Premier League football, and that is I think the rise of, well not the rise, but I think it's the prominence of Man City's academy players. Because Frimpong was on Man City academy for a long
Yeah,
time
that's
before he
it.
went to
Is.
Celtic.
Yeah.
So in the last few so that's Frimpong. Chelsea have I think Chelsea have about four of them. Palmer, if the lab comes through, Lavia, Tosin from the Man City framework. Guys like Morgan Rogers as well. That's from Man City as well. Sancho, those kind of guys. So it's a very I think it's very interesting. So I think the growing trend is always by Man City academy players.
Well, yeah, yeah. They have a
I
very
think
good academy. They have very, very because
that's
one thing United never did, no matter how good they were, was I couldn't count United players that they sold out that were good enough under Fergie. If they sold you a player, that means they had the one that went to Everton. I think there were two who went to Everton. They they had
That was
McNair. They had one that
that was
went
always
to Sunderland.
that
McNair,
was
centre back. They have Fusu Mensah, who played left back. They have another one again. This is after Fegi left under Vanguard. They had one left back also. Forgot his name. They've had some
yeah,
players, but they were just never good enough. They were not. But I found out
but
Ghana
they've
is from Manchester United. The Everton player. I can't remember him in Manchester United. Ghana.
yeah, sure, yeah. No, I think James Garner, the midfield player, yeah,
Yeah, I didn't
yeah.
know that.
He's been
I just read that.
I, th I think he made a few appearances on the during that Ragnick period at the club, or I think that only period was. I think again, but this is what happens when a club is not being run in the right way. You lose players like this, they slip through the cracks where you don't. And I think the biggest one right now is this guy that's about to sign for Real Madrid, the guy from Benfica.
But they have buyback clause
What's
for
his name?
him. What they are going to get a percentage. I think 20% sell on or something like that.
Yeah, I know, and yeah, I think United they've been framing it as okay, yeah, we're gonna get a big cash influx of cash from this percentage. But I look at it like this is the feeling of the club where this guy was at the club. He won Academy Player of the Year at the club, I think 3 years ago or thereabouts. But he never got a sniff in the first team.
Man, if
And
you look at that, I
if
checked
in
that
terms
guy.
of what
That
United
guy's
are looking
record
for,
last year. That guy went on loan to Preston North End. He played like 30
yeah,
something games in Preston North End. I'm not telling you that means he's ready
no,
to play football. He
in the
went down.
championship that
I
yeah,
think he went down the Prime Champion. He
and
had a very, very good season. I think he also went to Grenada or somewhere. They got him. So I'm like,
yeah,
before
it was
Benfica bought him, signed him, like the United. And this is where this is the main reason. I looked at Amorim and I was like, if you had him, why did you get Doku?
but it's not Amorim. It's not Amorim per se. It's he got sold while Ten Hag was coach, and
Yeah, but they
I
had
look at it. Okay, I know it's no, but I don't think this is on Amorim at all because Amorim does go into the football club. This guy has been at Benfica for the last 2 years. But I look at it like, okay, who are this football club that you know you see this guy coming through the academy. Gone on loan. He's won all the awards at the academy. Why isn't he getting into the first? Why isn't he getting first team opportunities at a minimum? And why is the club sanctioning the signing of a player like Malacia with Fortenag while this guy is still in the club? Because looking back at it now,
yeah, 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 yeah,
it
yeah.
looks like just an unfortunate situation. And this has been the problem at United for a long time. How they don't the guys that are really good at the football club they don't get on the pitch, and the guys that are not quite good they don't quite make it.
What's his name
They
again?
get more
Fernandez,
opportunities
right? Something
and they keep
Fernandez.
getting.
What's his name again?
Uh, um, Carriers, Alvaro Carriers. I think he has one of those funny names. Alvaro Carriers.
Oh, Alvaro Carrias. Oh,
And this is this is 22 years old and he looks like he's going over to Real Madrid to become or challenge for that left
yeah,
wing
he
position.
played for Real Madrid
And
Academy,
this
right?
yeah. So it's but again,
I
it's
checked
just
that.
one of
Yeah.
those instances where even if you see like a Scott McTominay, I know McTominay is not like whatever opinions you have about him as a player, he might not be the best passer of the ball. He might not be this, but he always has an impact when he plays. Be it for club, country, he's always dangerous in the box. And the failing of a club is when you can't get the best out of players like that. Because there's a situation where he plays for United for a long time as one of the midfielders or as a bench option, and in due time he just leaves the club. Like again, like the guys like this half figure operated. The guys like Neville, they played for the club as far as long as they could. And when the Evras, Gabriel Hines came into the team, they all started going away. But you lose this guy quite young or quite early, or you don't know how to get the best out of him. It seemed or you point a lot of fingers at him, okay, this is the problem at the team. You then ship him off. And if you look at like compared the midfielders United had 4 years ago with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and compared to what they have right now, it's night and day. In terms of quality, I talk about Pogba, Bruno Fernandez, and Herrera and Scott McTominay. You can't compare them to what they have right now to guys
Nothing,
like
nothing,
Ugarte.
not,
That's
nothing makes me mad or angry when a club goes to a foreign country, foreign language, gets academy player that is very young, 15, 13, 14, whatever, to England or to the club. The the boy progresses, but they sell him without making profit. Like I don't have a problem with doing it to Fabregas because you got money. But when like just like Garnacho, if they sell him now, I don't have a problem with that because at least you got money. But I'm looking at this guy, for example, who is a young boy, because it's difficult even for an adult to live in a foreign land. You took him for a foreign culture. He has endured that. That tells me how mentally strong the boy is, because you understand what I'm trying to say. At that young age, to live where you are
yeah,
comfortable
yeah.
and come and live here, and then you don't get anything, you just discard him, and then later that means he's on you, because there must be something special. Musiala, maybe it was because he wanted to leave Chelsea. That's the story they paint, or did they release him? I don't know. But whenever you get these players from foreign countries or whatever, and they come and then they do well, and then you don't get anything in return, it's on you. Okay, Frank, that should be all for us for today. Join us again for our listeners. Join us again next week for more.
For
Okay.
our Champions League review, Champions
Yeah,
League final review.
and then we'll talk about the lap
So
also. I
that'll be our
purposely left
next
that.
one.
Yeah, Champions League and the
Yeah,
lap,
the
and
lab.
then
Yeah,
some,
okay, of course.
and then catch up with some news. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody. Bye bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Wow.